Oh hi, welcome back to Season 4 of Coming Out Stories from What Goes On Media. I'm Emma Goswell, and over the next few months I'll be bringing you some incredible stories from LGBTQ+ people from right across the globe. This episode we're off to Ireland to meet Serena, who identifies as being lesbian and who came out a bit later in life. Now, this interview was recorded at the last ever Elfest, sob. It was a brilliant festival for gay and bisexual women and held in Llandudno in Wales. I mention it because you may hear some background noise or music, and that's why. Anyway, time to hear from Serena. Oh, and do listen to the full episode, please, as there's a really interesting twist in this tale.
I came to this late, shall we say. I was a very straight woman with 2 kids and an almost husband that I had been in a relationship with for 12 years. And then I fell in love with a woman who had been my friend for about 12 years.
Wow, there's a lot to unpick here, Serena. I don't know where to start, really. So you were friends with someone for 12 years. At what stage do you fall in love with a friend? Or was it always?
6 months before I was due to get married to him, that's when I fell in love with her.
And presumably you'd already said yes to him.
Yeah, we were literally 6 months away from getting married.
So the church was booked?
Well, it wasn't a church because he had been previously divorced, so we weren't allowed to do that in Ireland. But the reception was booked, the dress had just arrived, the invitations had been, formatted, not sent out, thankfully, but we weren't far from it. And this woman that I had been friends with for 12 years, her and her girlfriend, both called Lisa, weirdly. Yeah, we just fell in love like 6 months before I was due to get married, and 18 years later, here we are.
And you're still together with Lisa. Spoiler alert. How old are the kids at this stage then?
At the time, my kids were 4 and 7.
Okay, yeah, so quite little. What was that time like then?
Terrifying, because my first and foremost issue obviously was going to be, were my kids going to be okay? How was it going to be for them? I was taking them out of essentially, the 2.4 house with the picket fence and all that stuff that I had wanted all of my life. I felt I was taking them from that and into a relationship that I hadn't a clue what was going on. Was it going to work? Was it going to be a phase? Was I just experimenting? I really didn't know what was going on, to be honest with you.
And how old were you at this stage?
33.
So at 33, and you'd never had any sort of feelings for another woman? You never thought you might be gay?
Never, ever, ever. And I had been around the gay scene a long time at that point. A lot of my friends were gay. I had been all around the gay scene in Dublin since my very early 20s. Never for a second did I think about a woman in that way. Even now, like so many years later, I'm 52 now, I look back on my 20s and I'm thinking, oh, did I have a crush on her? No. Because a lot of the conversations that I have on this podcast are with people who, talking about their childhood and being at school, and that's quite difficult because people are obviously gay and they're getting bullied for how they look or how they dress or how they act, and presumably you didn't experience any of that then. No, I didn't. I feel like I missed that rite of passage completely, because by the time I kind of came to this, I was 33, didn't have a big angst about telling anybody. My parent, the biggest angst was telling the father of my kids. That was an angst, but I had no telling my parents angst or my friends, or were people going to, react badly to me? And 1 or 2 people did react badly to it. But I was at the age where I really knew that was their problem and not mine. And I feel really grateful for that. And I felt really grateful for that at the time. This one woman who wouldn't, my daughter and her daughter played together, and she wouldn't let her daughter come to my house anymore.
What? Because she found out you were a lesbian?
Mm-hmm, yeah. So she wouldn't let her daughter come to my house. And
did that surprise you?
Yeah, it really did surprise me. I was shocked. Our kids would have played together at least twice a week from the time they were babies. We spent at least 2 afternoons a week in each other's houses, and then she just wasn't allowed to come to our house anymore. And it definitely did shock me, and this is the bit I'm so grateful for, I knew straight away that was her problem and not mine. Yeah. I didn't for a second take that in. I didn't for a second think there's something wrong with me. I really just thought, God, isn't that sad for her?
And did you have a conversation with her and say, what are you thinking?
I just kind of had a conversation and said how sad that was. I likened it to, I said, it feels like you're telling me that the world is flat and that's what you believe. And I just think that that's really sad. If that's what you believe, it's like you're telling me the world is flat.
Well, she was in some way implying that you were a danger to her child.
Oh, she was explicitly implying that we were a danger to her daughter. She was quite explicit with it. And I just really thought how sad that is for you, that is where you are. And she has 5 kids. You know, there's a good possibility one of them's going to be gay.
Exactly.
And how's that going to work out for her, you know?
Oh, my God. And I guess the big conversation, which you've alluded to already, is telling the father of your children. How did that go?
So that was less explicit. And he and I, we never had the conversation. He knew Lisa because Lisa had been a friend for years. She had been in our house. She had been at the kids' christenings. I mean, he knew her. And I wasn't brave enough. I honestly wasn't brave enough to say, because, you know, when Lisa and I kind of first thought, oh, something is going on here, it was 4 weeks after that I left him. And I just hadn't got the courage at that point to tell him this is why. So I just said, look, we're not going to get married, it's not working. And I moved out and I moved up to Lisa's house in Navan. But he probably wouldn't have thought that was a big huge deal because we were friends anyway. So I don't ever remember a conversation, but I mean, he's one of our best friends now, and Lisa and him get on like a house on fire. I mean, they literally share power tools, which is, you know.
That's brilliant, I love it.
So, I mean, he knows, safe to say. But I chickened out of the conversation, to be honest. And I'd honestly... And this sounds like a bit of a cop-out, but it's also true. I don't think he would have been able for that conversation either.
No. But I suppose you weren't leaving him for another man. You were just saying, I'm leaving you, it's not working. It's just...
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, we were housemates and really good co-parents anyway at that point. So it wasn't like he was losing the love of his life either. And I know that does sound like I'm making excuses, but it just is the way it was. And we have pretty much our relationship is pretty much the same now as it was then, only we're living in separate houses. Like, I literally just got a text from him just there saying, I'm out for a walk with Noah, that's our grandson, will I call in or are you still away? You know, so we have a lovely relationship. And he sends jokey texts to Lisa that he doesn't send to me because they have the same sense of humour and I do not. So we just really are very 2022, all get on very well.
Well, you are, and really your kids are doing great, aren't they, because they've got extra parents. You've just got more people looking out for them, really.
Absolutely, and it's always been like that, and there's never been a big animosity between the three of us, so they have definitely won in that. And we've a beautiful grandson now, Noah. He's 7 months, nearly 8 months, so we just all get on. And I'm aware that, you know, look, I say that and it sounds trite, but actually we've all worked really hard to get to where we are with that. You know, it hasn't been, you know, a huge struggle, but we've all had to work and be mindful of each other and make an effort at it. But we all care about each other, so it's worked. Yeah,
and I guess the kids were quite young when you got together with Lisa, so there wasn't really a conversation to have with them at that age, was there?
I did have a conversation with my son when he was 9. So again, we moved into Lisa's house, and for the first couple of weeks we put she had a 3-bedroom house, so we put the 2 kids into 1 bedroom. We told the kids I was sleeping in the 3rd bedroom, but obviously I wasn't. So when they'd knock on the 3rd bedroom door and I wouldn't be there, I'd have to say hang on, and then we bought a house that was a 4-bedroom house. And I think when we bought that quite quickly, as lesbians do, and they didn't know that we were in the same room either then. But when we were about 9, when he was 9, I sat him down and I said, look, I love Lisa and Lisa loves me, and there was something on, I think on Coronation Street or something at the time, and I said, you know, we're not just friends, I love Lisa the way so-and-so loves so-and-so, and, you know, how do you feel about that? And he just said to me, thank you for telling me, Mammy, that was very brave of you.
At the age of 9? He's wise, isn't he?
Oh, he was so wise. I remember, then he said something like, you know, can I have a chocolate or whatever? I was like, yeah, fine. Gave it to him, went into the shower, and I just sobbed, because he was so wise and he was so just wonderful about it all. And Kate, who was 4 when we got together, never had a conversation with her. She just grew up knowing no different. It just always was the way it was.
She just always had 2 mums.
Yeah, absolutely. She always had 2 mums, and it was no big deal for her at all.
And was it any big deal for them in their peer group as well? You know, and I'm speaking as someone that is a mum and is bringing up a child with 2 mums, and that's always something you worry about, isn't it? That there's going to be some sort of idiocy at school where the kids go, "Oh, you've got 2 mums," you know. And has that ever been an issue?
No, it has been an issue, but I think we can only do what we can do to arm our kids. I think if there's going to be cruel kids in school, they're going to find something to bully your kid about. If it's not having 2 mums, it's having a big nose, or it's having the wrong hair. It's going to be something. So what we did, and actually this was a really important thing for me, was I surrounded myself when my kids were small with other kids who had 2 mums.
Yes.
So it was just so normal for them. In fact, it was more normal for them, for friends to come over with 2 mums than it was to have a mum and a dad.
And remind us where you're living, where this is all going on, because I guess being in a city is easier maybe than rural places in Ireland.
Yeah, I mean, we're in suburban Dublin, like north side suburban Dublin, you know, just your normal run-of-the-mill. But I was so lucky very early on, like weeks into my relationship with Lisa, I went actively looking for mums with kids, and I found Sapphic Ireland, which was a website that was run at the time by Susie Bourne, who was an amazing gay activist in Ireland, and found that website, connected with other mums, and never looked back. So it was there that I found, and I literally went on saying, "This is me, this is my kids, 4 and 7, anyone else out there like me?" And Sapphic Ireland connected us all, and 20 years later those women are still my friends.
So was there anyone else that you had to come out to then, with her friends, with her family members, that you had to break the news to?
Yeah, well, I think we're always coming out, aren't we? Yeah. All the time, you know. I mean, like every time there's a new guy started in work last week, I'm just so open about who I am, and my wife is always in the conversation. It's always me and the wife or whatever. But you can still see the kind of the double take, because I suppose some people might say that I don't look like a stereotypical lesbian, so it's not as...
I will just say you are sat here in a lovely pink frock. You are.
Nice coral floral bit number with my pink lipstick, yeah. But because I don't look like a stereotypical lesbian, it's more of a shock for people, I think. So, you know, they're like, oh, you know, and people say things like, when we went to get our kitchen done a few years ago, and we were trying to design the kitchen, and the kitchen guy was like, "So whose kitchen is it?" Because I was saying I want this, and Lisa was saying I want that, and the kitchen guy goes, "Oh, and whose kitchen is it?" And I said, "It's ours." And he went, oh, right, okay, well, that's okay then. And I was like, "Well, thank you so much for your permission." Thank you. You know,
lesbians can have kitchens too.
Exactly. So, I mean, I'm coming out all the time to people, but as I say, I feel because I was so late in the day, I was like euphorically in love. I just kind of didn't really care what other people thought, and still don't.
Yeah. Well, there's something to be said about coming out a bit older, isn't there, really? Because you haven't got all that angst and hormones that you have going around your body when you're a teenager, which a lot of people do, I guess.
Definitely. And look, I also had, you know, some amazing role models that I had known when I was straight, when I thought I was straight, whatever, however, I don't really care. But I knew all these amazing people then. When Lisa and I got together, I surrounded myself with amazing women, mostly women. So that really just made it so much easier for me. I mean, we all grew up, the 4 of us, me, Lisa and the kids, we've just existed in a world where, you know, women in love is just the norm. Like, that's just it.
And is it pretty easy to be part of the LGBT community in Dublin then? I'm guessing it's a pretty forward-thinking town, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, look, it is for me, I mean, I'm a 52-year-old lesbian, so, I mean, we've got a lovely tribe going on there. So for us, I think it's easy. But, you know, and I think it probably is easier for people coming up, but, you know, I also don't want to kind of make it out that there isn't problems, and there aren't problems, because there still are. You know, I saw something in the paper just the other day about some guy coming into a shop and demanding that the pride flag be taken down because it's just Pride Month in June. And you think, God, do people like you really exist? Yes, they really do. And, you know, that must be really difficult for some 17-year-old or 18-year-old or 22-year-old who thinks, Jesus, is there really something wrong with me? I was just very lucky that I was 33 and really knew that, you know, if there was something wrong, it just wasn't with me.
Yeah. And there were a couple of people who were attacked at Dublin Pride this year, I saw.
Yeah, and that happens. Like, honestly, we probably have a dozen homophobic attacks a year that make it to the papers, and lots more that don't. Yeah. But again, I think that hurt people, and bullies are going to bully. And, you know, if it's not going to be, if gay people are an easy target, and there's a lot to be said for internalised homophobia and how people transfer that onto people that they see being happy when maybe that's what they want themselves. But, you know, I think that you can choose to live in that world and be fearful, or you can choose to not, and I just choose not.
Yeah, quite right. Yeah. What about parents? Are your parents still around or not?
No.
Okay.
They're both, well, they're both dead. I never knew my dad, so that was very easy. I didn't have to go there at all. My mum, interesting twist for your podcast. My mum died 5 years ago. 5 years ago. She knew about me and Lisa, and we had, you know, there was conversation, but my mum and I were not close at all. But when she died, I went to get to go through her papers and found her writings about her own lesbian affairs.
What?
Yes, starting from before she was pregnant with me. Yeah. So, yeah, spoiler alert there. That's a twist for your podcast. It was amazing because she had done like a list of stuff in her life. I suppose she was a writer, my mother, so she wrote a lot of stuff down, but she was having affairs with women from pre-me. I was born in 1970 right up until the 80s was when she had written down the last one. Yeah, and she kind of was talking about them, and my mind was blown, and I felt really sad that she had never said it to me while she was alive, you know, for her to never say, gosh, you know, I know what that feels like to be in love with a woman.
And even when you fell in love with a woman, she could have gone, I know that could have been a good opportunity.
That's exactly what I mean. You know, because she knew about me and Lisa. Like, Lisa and I got married, and you know that I felt really sad that she never said, I know what you're feeling, you know, because I've been there. And she never had a long-term relationship with a man. So I mean, I don't know. Would she have identified as lesbian? I don't know.
Gosh, I wonder I guess it would have been very different in her era, though, in Ireland, growing up, and she obviously felt like she couldn't come out.
Yeah, look, my mother had enough shame going on. In 1970, she gave birth to a child on her own without a father. So, inner city, North Dublin, that's enough shame for you to carry all your life. She was also an alcoholic. That comes with a whole lot of shame with that too. So, maybe the gay thing was just a step too far for her. But I just, you know, I was so sorry or so sad when I read that stuff that she had not been able, because my mother and I didn't connect on many levels, and that would have been one that we could have connected on, and she just, for whatever reason, didn't feel able to tell me. But it was pretty cool that I found it all the same.
Yeah, I feel like there's a book in there, Serena.
You wouldn't be the first person to say that to me.
Yeah, gosh. Okay, so I always ask this question towards the end then. Any advice for other people coming out? I know for you it was a bit later in life, but maybe for anyone sort of being in shock that they've suddenly fallen in love with someone of the same gender. Any advice for how to do it?
Find your tribe. Honestly, that is the most important piece of advice I would give you for whatever, whether that's coming out, whether that's, you know, finding yourself in any other kind of marginalised or society that's a minority. Find your tribe, because they absolutely are out there, and when you find them, you will know that these are the people for you, and then hang on to them, because I have, and that's what really has made it such a relatively easy 20 years for me. I have met and kept amazing women in my life, and I don't know where I'd be if it wasn't for them, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and that's from joining that parenting group. So for you it was other LGBT parents.
Yeah, absolutely. It was actually just a women's group. It wasn't even a parents group, but there were, I put a call out for other parents, and they came. And you know, some of them were still married at the time, and they had no other way to connect with somebody only on Sapphic Ireland. So I don't know how it would have been for me had I not found those women, but I'm really grateful that I did, that I had, and that I still have them.
So we started this conversation talking about how 20 years ago or a bit more you were about to get married to a man and then you didn't, and you have alluded to a couple of times. You are now happily married to a woman, and what was it like then finally, eventually walking down the aisle 20 years later than you were originally going to, but to the woman that you were in love with?
It was amazing. It was amazing. And oh God, I don't know how this is going to make me sound when I wore the dress. the dress that I had gotten when John and I were getting married, it was just so lovely.
Save costs, Serena.
I couldn't be without it. So I ended up wearing the dress.
I love that. Any other memories of the wedding day that you just like?
Look, we were surrounded with love. There was, so many people there who just wanted the best for us. I think for us, because, and somebody alluded to it here at Elfest, getting married is a novelty for us still. Where, for heterosexual people, they've been doing it for centuries. But for us, it's such a novelty. And I think everybody, gay people, straight people, anyone at the wedding was just extra out to celebrate it. And I know I refer to my wife all the time, and that's my wife, and somebody said to me, why do you keep doing that? And I was like, because I fucking can. And that means so much, because for all of the years it's been my partner, my girlfriend, my friend, and now I can say my wife, and that really means a lot. So I say it at every opportunity, and so does she.
So loves Serena. And what a great story. And further proof that it's never too late to come out. And probably also proof that we should never assume that our parents led boring lives before they had us. Oh, and as a side note, can someone please set up another lesbian festival? Elfest ending has left a big old hole in my summer diary. Thank you. Right, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss a single episode. You don't want to miss the next one, for example, when we hear from Rob. He's a gay man who has a classic example of a parent not really reading the signs.
My best friend is actually trans, but we've grown up with each other because our mothers were best friends. And we used to swap clothes. So I would put on Katie's clothes and Katie would put on my clothes. I'd be called Sally and Katie would be called Christopher. And our mums would take us to sort of Tesco's and B&Q and, out and about. And they'd call me Sally and they'd call Katie Christopher, and they'd go along with the whole thing all the time. And my mum always said she didn't know. And I was like, well, how could you not know? Like, I dressed up as a girl, like, throughout the majority of my childhood, and she just said that she thought I was theatrical.